Welcome to this part of the series where we're going to have a quick look at how we're going to make some bass lines for our riffs. Now, writing bass lines is something that will come very naturally to you once you get started doing it, but it might be kind of confusing if you're not really into music theory at all, or you just haven't picked up bass yet. Recording bass for your song is essential to make it sound complete. Without the bass, it's just going to sound like it lacks something. So you need to get a hold of a cheap bass. Doesn't matter if it's 4 or 5 strings. In this case, I'm using a 5-string bass because I'm using a 7-string guitar. But you can always do like me and just tune down a 4-string bass if you want to. Now, what I want you to think when you're writing your bass lines is that you want the bass to be constantly playing the lowest note on whatever chord is being played. But on this riff, you might be thinking that, well, there is no chord being played, and you're kind of right, as there is no power chord or like a complete chord being played. You have to look at, well, what is the bass note? Where is the foundation of this riff? And what we're constantly going down to is the open string on the B string here. So based on this, I would say that we're basing this off a B chord, or a B minor if you want to, because it has that minor sound, but there's no minor notes in here, but that's more advanced than what we're going to go into. We're just going to see that this is basing off of the open string. And what that means is that the bass, just making it simple, is just going to play the open string. Now I know that a lot of bassists will hate me for saying this, because this is a really boring part, and you can make the bass line so much more interesting and advanced. But for the sake of this song, we're keeping it simple. We're doing simple stuff. We're just making it sound good. This is what we're gonna do. So if we solo the bass, it's just playing. And you can see that I'm kind of following the same rhythm as well. Just making sure that it kind of synchronizes with the guitar. Now you could of course just play the bass like this, but it's gonna sound, or it can in some places sound kind of weird when the bass is playing while there's nothing happening with the guitar, but in other cases it might be a good thing. And if we move on in this riff, we can see here that the riff kind of changes. So what happens here? Well, we're basing the riff off of our next chord, and that is of this 8th fret. And what you're simply going to do is you're going to see that, well, this is basically the same thing. We're just playing the same thing. We're just moving it up a few frets, and we're basing it off of our 8th fret on the low B string. That means the bass is just going to play the 8th fret on the low B string. It is really as simple as that. When it comes to these kinds of riffs, it's really simple to write a simple and good bass line. Of course, you can make fancy transitions, you can do stuff with the bass line, but as I said earlier, we're not going to do anything advanced here. We're just going to make it simple, and by making it simple, we make something that actually sounds good. Now, how about this when you actually come to the chords? This is not something from the song that we're working on, but this is just an example that I made. And here you're just doing the same thing. You're looking at what is being played. Well, we're playing a B power chord. That means we're just going to play on the open B string. And here we're moving up on the 3rd fret. That means we're just going to play on the 3rd fret. And here we're basing our chord off the 2nd fret. That means we're just going to play the 2nd fret. And so on. So when you're writing your bass lines, you just have to go off of this approach. And if you ever come across something that really doesn't sound good, it sounds weird or whatever, you just have to experiment with it or learn some more advanced music theory, and writing your bass lines will be a really simple thing to do. At least writing metal bass lines, writing jazz bass lines is a whole different topic. So I hope this gives you kind of a basic understanding, very, very basic understanding of how you're writing the bass line for this song. And writing the bass line for this song, which I recorded, didn't even take me 5 minutes. I I just knew the chords that were being played and recorded the whole bass in one single take. It's not really challenging for this kind of music. Now, when you use DistroKid to distribute your music to all the big services like Spotify, iTunes, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, anything, you can also get what's called a hyperfollow link. And what the hyperfollow link does is that it gives you a link you can give to your friends, and when they click that link, they automatically follow you on Spotify, and the album that the link is associated with is automatically saved in their Spotify library. And what this does is it gives you more followers, and when you get more followers, it's more likely that you'll be picked up by all the different algorithms, and you'll be put into more playlists, and you'll be put into more suggested music, and it also gives you a lot more insight into what kind of people listen to your music, what other music do they listen to, and you also get the email address to each of your fan using hyperfollow. It's one of the services you get by using DistroKid. Costs just $20 a year. It's an amazing service. I wholeheartedly endorse using them. It's what I'm using. It's what I'm going to continue to use as long as the service is there.